Hello, hello. Happy Wednesday. Hope everybody's having a fantastic day. Goodness me, it's been such a long week, but I've been looking forward to this moment. I've been looking forward to another webinar brought to you by Black Bully in South Africa. And my name is Tepo Kapane. I'm part of the team, and I'll be your host this lunchtime. And today's webinar is very, very interesting, right? It's all about tackling money taboos. So those money related topics that we tend to avoid talking about, whether it's things like gambling, navigating debt, lending friends and family money, which can always go wrong, and dealing with things like black tax. So we'll be sharing 10 ingredients for confidently tackling these taboos with two amazing and opinionated young women who will form part of our panel and a very, very special guest, right? He calls himself a wealth champion and he happens to be a certified financial planner. And I will be introducing them in a little bit. So, a big and massive shout out to you guys for joining us and to Sanlam Foundation for making all of this possible. Collectively, our aim is simple to build a community of young people who want to become financially savvy. That's the most important thing for us, right? So, in the meantime, all those that are on the chat that are watching this webinar, let me know, where are you currently watching from? I'm curious to know where you currently watching from. I'm all the way in Johannesburg. It's a little bit windy, it's a little bit cold, but the sun is out. The weather's all over the show, right? And just a little bit of some house rules before we get things started off. Please use the chat box to answer questions, to interact with me, other attendees, members of the Black Bullion SA team. And of course, during this webinar, we'll also be giving away some amazing goodies as always. And please do note that the webinar is also being recorded. So we're good. We're ready to kick off. I see people are saying hi. There's all sorts of things happening in the chat. Super, super excited. And this is what today's webinar is all about. 10 ingredients for confidently tackling those money taboos, right? Very, very interesting. And of course, you can also follow us on social media. We are on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on X, and of course, we're also on Instagram. Why is it so important that you follow us on social media? Well, that's one of the ways that you can win one of the amazing goodies that we have on hand. So we've decided to switch things up a little bit, right? So we'll give away two Mr. D vouchers. I've got to check with Taryn, our marketing manager. Can we also do take a lot? I'm wondering if we should give away take a lot. But the gift that's getting me super excited is an opportunity to win financial planning sessions worth 6,000 Rand, right? So you're looking to build this relationship with your money. We will hook you up with a professional and you'll have these financial planning sessions worth 6,000 Rand. So you can get a heads up on your money, right? And how you can possibly win is to do a couple of things, right? You need to engage with us in the chat box, whether it's questions, whether it's letting us know where you're from, whether it's answering certain things, following us on social media. I did share all of those platforms. And then, of course, by asking some great questions or sharing some of your opinions, right? So I did just get a message from Taryn. He is our father. If you want beautiful things, he delivers, right? And he is saying, yebo, yes. We'll give away two take a lot vouchers valued at 200 bucks. So we're adding even more into this webinar. So much to look forward to. I'm super, super excited. So, what's on our menu? I'll be introducing our panel and experts shortly. We'll be touching on the 10 ingredients for confidently tackling those money taboos. We'll engage with our panel and experts in a Q&A. We'll do some beautiful giveaways. And then, of course, we will wrap the webinar up. So there's lots and lots to look forward to. Quickly looking at our chat box, Luvuyo says, I'm out in Cape Town. Zandile says, Galfontein, Johannesburg. Petile says, I'm in Nelspruit in Mpumalanga. Mamli says, JHB, Wiseman, Potchefstroom. Buitumelo Sant in Johannesburg. Nell Marie says, I'm in Magaliesburg. Pradesh is in KZN. We've got people spread all over, all over, all over. Welcome, welcome, welcome. But now we've got to bring in our super, super talented guests. So we've got some amazing guests that are joining us for our panel discussion. So this one won't be one of those webinars where there's a long presentation, we're falling asleep. We're going to keep things fun and engaging, right? So today we're joined by two amazing students who also happen to be Phoenix ambassadors and users on the Black Bullion platform. They are very smart, they are opinionated. So I want us to welcome Viola Nchali and Carol Mujapelo. They are our two student guests, and of course, very young, very opinionated. They also happen to be users on the Black Bullion platform. Viola, Carol, welcome. How are you guys feeling? You guys good?
Very good. Thank you so much.
Lovely. Carol, how you doing? You well?
Thank you, Tabo, for having me. Hello, everyone.
Alrighty, so we've got to add one more special guest. He is a wealth champion, a certified financial planner. In fact, we hosted him last year. His name is Obakeng Macau. And I enjoyed having him last year. He was super funny. He was also a little bit strict because he was like, we need to do things the right way. But we brought him back. Obakeng, welcome back, brother.
Hi, Tsepo. Thank you for having me again.
I'm super excited to be hosting you guys. There's so much that we're going to be discussing, all things to do with taboos and, of course, money. Let's get into the first ingredient, right? And I think this is an interesting one to kick off the webinar because this is the point of the webinar. We need to have open and honest conversations about money, but a lot of us don't for a lot of different reasons, right? So, ingredient number one basically says money shouldn't be openly discussed. It's something that some people believe, and I know many of us have grown up in households where money wasn't openly discussed, and when it is discussed, it's only around not having enough of it. So fast forward to being a young adult, and all of a sudden having conversations about money is awkward. There's a veil of secrecy, which I believe creates a misunderstanding about how to manage money, how to grow money. So I definitely think we need to have more open conversations around money. But I'm curious to know from some of our panel. I'll start with you, Viola. In your household, do you guys have open conversations about money? What's the vibe in your household?
Thank you, Tapa. Greetings, everyone. Well, in my household, I will tell the truth. Discussions about money, they tend to be avoided completely so. We talk more about values, we talk more about experiences than specific financial details. However, I have noticed that in my friendship circles, we do discuss about money tips as a way to support each other. However, we still shy away from personal figures. That has been how my setting has been in my household and friendship.
So within the friendship circles, there's no conversations about how much is your actual allowance, but we do have those conversations. But at home, you sort of shy away. Carol, is that the same thing within your household? Do you guys have conversations? Do you not have a conversations? Is it a little bit different with your friendship group? What does it look like for you?
Definitely. I agree with Viola. Where I come from, it's definitely a sensitive topic. It's not out in the open. In fact, just conversating with adults is not on the table where I come from. It's a space whereby you are chased out of the room when adults are having a conversation. So we basically aren't open in those spaces. But like she's saying, with friendships, especially as students, we tend to like share our experiences and our struggles, and it's more open in that space as opposed to with our parents and our homes.
Yeah, I think there's something about it's easier to relate with somebody that's your age, that you sort of live with in res or you go with to campus and so forth, which I think makes a lot of sense. Oh, but again, you obviously work with clients, young and old. What advice do you give them around having open conversations with their family about money? Because obviously, when they see you, they're looking to make certain financial decisions, and I think these decisions shouldn't be made in secrecy. So, how do you deal with it from a client point of view?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can, brother.
Look, I think it's very important, very much so, to have these conversations within the family, structure. And the reason why is because our money personalities are actually formed, at that point in time. So very important that we do this. And in many households, finances, or speaking about finances, is like saying the F word, right? This as if like you're swearing at people. And most people therefore tend to, when we grow up, because we never had these conversations, we tend to have, certain money personalities that sometimes are not good for us, right? So I usually tell my clients that it's very important that we create a culture within the household to sit down and communicate whatever is happening within the household with regards to the finances, because the financial decisions that are made within the household affects everyone, right? And in most households, we only talk about finances when things are going wrong, and that creates that money personality to say that you can only seek for help when things are already bad. And unfortunately, I mean, that creates a hole that you continuously dig, because you could have avoided that had it been a thing whereby your personality with regards to money was properly formed at a young age.
Yeah, I think what you guys are saying is definitely making sense, and I see Nogwazi in the chat is agreeing, saying I agree with the panelists. It's better and much easier to have these conversations with our friends than it is with our families. Within households, it's more of a private conversation type of thing where money is your own business. But again, you're right. I think we need to change the culture of having conversations about money, because most of the time we have all these secrets, like maybe your guardian or your parent passes on, and then all of a sudden you hear that there was expenses, there was your mother or dad was owing this and owing that. But we need to start having those conversations, and I wonder if we don't have them because we don't know enough about money, or are we embarrassed to have these conversations? It's something that I often think about. So I'm curious to see from our audience what their thoughts are, and of course let them keep giving us some of their comments in terms of that. So, ingredient one, money shouldn't be openly discussed. We say it should be discussed. It should be an open thing amongst friends and family as best as we can. Another ingredient that I find to be very, very interesting and weird is around debt. Personally, guys, I don't like debt. I don't like equality. I don't want to hear from debit order collect. I don't want to hear anything about equality. But as you get older and you start to make money, you unfortunately get into this place where you need to start accumulating debt in some degree, right? So although debt is often viewed as this dirty word, it can actually be a valuable tool when managed responsibly. However, many people shy away from discussing it due to feelings of shame. And what I find really interesting is I was actually seeing the study yesterday that 27 million South Africans have access to credit, and over 10 million of them are behind on their debt payments. So there's a lot of people that have access to debt, and there's a lot of people struggling with it, but nobody wants to talk about debt, which I think is super, super weird. Obakeng, maybe let's start with you in terms of debt being this dirty word. Is all debt bad, and does it ever make sense to accumulate any of it?
Look, not all bad debt is inherently bad, right? I think the most important thing is how it's managed and how it's used, right? Because, like you say, I mean, if we didn't have access to debt, then how many people would have homes? How many people would have cars, right? So debt is good if it's used to invest in assets or things that improve our lifestyle. For example, sometimes people get into debt for student loans, obviously with that hope that once they're finished with their degrees or their schooling, they'll be able to get a job that will help them, improve their living circumstances. So being able to manage the debt is what's really important. And I always say, or we always say that, qualification does not mean affordability. So it's very important that we ensure that whatever we qualify for with regards to debt, do we really afford it? And once we know, where we are in terms of affordability, then we can start making better debt decisions, right? I'll give an example for myself. So when I first got my credit card or access to a credit card, I used to usually just use it for groceries and small necessities, right? And I'll always make sure by the end of every month I'll pay it off. Whatever I took, I'd pay it off and not use it as free money. So I'd pay it off. And then within a couple of years, I had a good credit score, right? And with this good credit score, I used this as a leverage at the bank when I bought my first car, right? Because now I had a good credit score. I was able to negotiate a good, interest rate when purchasing my car. So it's not inherently bad. It's just how we manage it and how we use the debt that can, assist us, because we do need debt. Unfortunately, it's unfortunate that when we take out debt, sometimes it's for example, emergencies, of which, had we done proper planning, then we should have some money, a bit of money put aside that can assist with regards to emergencies, so that we don't get debt for things that are not inherently that good for us sometimes. But we have to take it because there's nothing else, or there's no way out of that situation at that point. So managing that debt, very important, and what you take it out for is also very important.
That makes a lot of sense, and I see Sanel is agreeing with you actually, Obaka, saying when managed responsibly, debt can be a valuable tool. But my experience, and I think Viola and Carol will will correct me if I'm wrong. I've seen students going a little bit crazy with debt, particularly with the store cards. Right, I had a session a couple of weeks ago where somebody was saying Jet is chasing them, and I was like, "But what do you do to Jet? What happened?" So, Viola, Carol, as young students, do you guys have any debt? Are you exposed to it? I'm curious to know what your guys' experience with debt is, and what have you guys been seeing? Carol, do you want to go first?
Um, so okay, with myself, I think I'm like you, Tepo. I'm very fearful of debt, so I don't have a lot, unfortunately. But then I know that as students, we tend to fall into the traps of the store cards, because we always want to look fly. You want to have the latest look, you want to look okay, you want to meet the gangs where they are. But unfortunately, the traps are there and they're very real. And when it's time to pay, you don't want to find yourself having bitten more than you can chew. And I feel like it's basically, like Tepo said, planning. So you want to plan and you want to execute it in a way that is going to benefit you, even when you leave the university space. So I feel like in that sense, I'm very cautious in terms of biting more than what I can chew.
Me and you are definitely the same. Viola, what are your thoughts? What are you experiencing? What are you seeing? Is Foshini chasing you? What's going on at the moment?
Oh, definitely, that is chasing me. I have some university debt, and I must say it's the worst experience. And I wish to say that I am currently like working on reducing my outstanding fee, but it's close to impossible when you don't have any source of income and you don't have any source of support financially. So it's a different story. Like what our king said, that is not bad, especially if you are using it to uplift yourself, to upskill yourself. But it becomes so sad when you accumulate debt and still not be able to pay for it, like the university debt.
Yeah, it's such a real reality, and thank goodness there's organizations like Phoenix that are helping students to actually pay their fees. But Obakeng, just one last thing from you. I think what I'm picking up is if you are going to get into debt, you need to be intentional as to why you're getting into the debt. So as much as Viola, as an example, is in debt, it's with the purpose of getting this degree so she can work, so that she can have an income and so forth. But Obakeng, to the rest of us that might not have that type of debt, what is at least one strategy we can implement to try and start paying off some of our debt?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Can
I
you?
mean, uh, with most situations, I guess it starts with the budget, and seeing what you can do in terms of creating additional cash flow. And if there is additional cash flow, then increasing. Sometimes we're just paying the minimum amount in terms of that uh, debt, right? And if it is possible to increase the amount that the minimum amount to uh, a more amount that can assist with regards to reducing the debt quicker, because the longer you're paying the debt, the longer you're paying interest, right? So the cost of debt becomes expensive. So if there is provision to increase the payments, to reduce the interest payments so that you're able to clear out the debt quicker, then let's do so, right? And then from there on, it's all about managing that up until you are able to, clear out the debt and take it from there.
That definitely makes sense. Some great advice I got a while back is you cannot get out of debt while living the same lifestyle that got you into debt. So sometimes people have credit cards and they still utilizing them while saying they still want to get out of it. But I think paying more than the minimum amounts that you're supposed to pay every month is a great way to start paying it off as quickly as possible. And there's so many comments around this and a couple of questions that we'll ask in the Q&A. So going into ingredient number three, it's one of my favorites around investing. And there's a lot of misconceptions around investing. It's only for the wealthy, it's only for certain people, it's very complicated and difficult to invest. There's a lot that comes with investing. So I want to ask Viola and Carol around investing. Ladies, are you guys investing at all? If yes, what are you investing in? If not, what has stopped you from investing? Viola, do you want to go first?
So I am investing in sustainable company, in companies that I believe are sustainable. However, I hesitated due to the lack of knowledge and confidence. But learn more about the market and also the advantages of starting small. Yes.
Okay, so I lost you a little bit there, but I know you said you are investing, you've started small, it's something that you're constantly working towards as well. Carol, do you have any investments? Are you investing? If yes, in what? If no, what has stopped you from investing? And I think it's the same question even for our audience. Are you guys investing? If yes, what are you investing in? And if not, what has stopped you from investing? Carol, over to you.
Thank you. Well, on my side, I feel like I wouldn't say it's investing per se, it's more of trying to save a little bit that I can. But in terms of actually investing in something worthwhile, like maybe a business of some sort that is generating some form of wealth back, or, like books or whatnot, I feel like I'm not so well equipped in that sense, and I'm trying to grow myself. But yeah, I definitely advocate for investing. I know that it's a good thing to do, but then like I say, I feel like I'm not sure if it's the misconceptions around the topics, like the fact that it's for the wealthy, that are holding me back. But definitely, I try to learn more about the field itself and what my options are as a student, because like I'm saying, we don't really have much at the moment, but we try to grow the little that we can for the future. So that's the aim. But yeah, not anything formal at the moment, just savings.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. Obviously, if you don't have a stable income, you're worrying about other things, right? You're trying to save and all of that. So investing isn't at top of mind, but it is something that you guys are at least thinking about. So I see some people are saying yes, investing in shares through easy equities. Siwela says, I'm not investing. I want to invest. I just don't know where to start and I need to learn more about it. So we will actually be giving everybody that's joining this webinar free access to the Black Bullion platform where you can learn a bit more about investing, what to investing, what is the share, and so forth. But to wrap up this ingredient, which I think is really important, I'm going to bring Obakeng back. Obakeng, what's the biggest myth about investing that you've come across? Because obviously, you have a potential client that wants to invest, but they'll have all these misconceptions around investing. What's the biggest one that tends to come up?
Look, I think the biggest one is already on the screen, which is that investing is only for the wealthy or for the rich. But another one that I find that a lot of people seem to believe is that you need a large sum of money to invest. I mean, that's absolutely not true. In reality, most of these platforms, offer people to invest from as little as, 200 rand. With some platforms like Violet's a person in the comment section had said that they investing through easy equities, which allows you to invest even from as little as 1 rand, 5 rand, 50 rand. right? So it's all about, starting small. Sometimes I think we think that because it's a little amount, it doesn't make much, right? But it's not necessarily about the little amount, because it creates a habit, the habit to, consistently and constantly, be putting away this money, seeing something grow from a seed, to a full blown tree. For example, I had a child, or I had my son when I was extremely young. I think I was in varsity at that point. And fortunately for me, I was studying BCom finance. And I knew that at some point I'd need to take my son to school. I need to take him to varsity. And I got in touch with one of my mates. This guy was a financial advisor at the time, and I told him what it is that I wanted to do. And I mean, he told me about, a unit trust at that time, and I started putting away 200 rand at that time. I mean, it wasn't much. It doesn't seem like much even today. But through, the consistent efforts and seeing the growth within that investment, I mean, you feel motivated to start contributing more because the discipline is there. So we can start investing from as little as 200 rand, 50 rand. Investing is not for the rich. You don't need a lot of money to start investing. Build the discipline, build, the continuous cycle of putting money away, creating those good money habits. And then it becomes easier, because then you get exposed to more information with regards to other investments and what it is that you can expose yourself to. So the information is out there, and we just need to start looking for it, and start doing and start investing.
Yeah, lot of interest when I look at the chat around investing and people wanting to get into it. And of course, there's so many questions that we'll definitely be tackling in the Q&A as well. So moving on to ingredient number 4, I think it's one that's super interesting, and it's around mixing family, friends, and money, right? So they say you should never mix money with family and friends. Things tend to go wrong, right? So, for a specific audience, I've got a question for our audience, right? And it's around, should you charge family and friends interest when you lend them money? Should you charge family and friends interest when you lend money, right? So sometimes things can go super, super wrong. So I'm interested in hearing from the panel, right? When it comes to friends or family, how do you decide when to lend them money and when to just say no, right? Because with family, it's a little bit more difficult. It might be somebody that's old, it might be somebody that's super close. But how do you tackle something like that? Viola, do you want to go first? How do you tackle that from a friend or family point of view?
Thank you, Tapo. Well, there was a time I used to emotionally lend money to my loved ones, right? And that has proven over time to be of my detriment.
Ew.
And now that I know better, I assess their need first and the impact it may have on our relationship. So if they are genuinely in distress, I'll help, but if I can. But also I set boundaries to protect myself, in contrast, if I sense that the request is more about impulse, there's nothing important that they will spend the money on, I have to respectfully say no, I cannot. So I believe it's important for both parties to maintain a healthy relationship.
That's super interesting. Oh, but King, is it similar for you? Do you look at what do they need the money for, or are you just the type that doesn't mix the two? So if I send you a message and say, "Hey, Obake, mganwami, I need something," how do you tackle this? I think you're still on mute. Yeah, we can hear you now.
I think mixing money with family and friends can be very tricky, because their lifestyle sometimes. No, Mara, this person likes going out, this person likes clubbing, so sometimes, because you might have that perception of that person, you tend to, assess them even more and be like, no, but do they really need this money, and so on and so forth. So like Viola says, you assess, the person first, and you look at, okay, will this person be able to pay it back? I mean, for me, I mean, if I am going to borrow you money, then I borrow you knowing that there is maybe a possibility that you won't pay me back. And I think that's also one very important thing that we must keep note, because I mean, do you want to lose the relationship because of, the money? And if you're willing to, then you will borrow the money. If you know that they're not going to pay it back, you might not borrow the money because you feel like the relationship is important. So being able to set boundaries is very important. You set those boundaries, they know what they can and what they can't ask from you. And then, yeah, so I do to some extent mix, money with friends and family, but you'll be assessed like a bank.
That makes sense. Carol, what's your approach? Friends, family, lending them money. How do you approach this thing?
I definitely stand with Obakeng. It's basically assessing the situation, because sometimes, times are tough and someone needs 100 rand for a taxi ride, or someone needs what you call this, some capital to do something quite important, getting the driver's license or whatever the case may be. But you definitely need to assess that it's not for something of, of not benefit to them growing as a person. So I feel like setting those boundaries as a person is very important, because you don't want to be used and have a financial loss in the process, because you're mixing money with family. So I feel like I definitely stand with where comes from. And yeah, you need to approach with caution.
No, that definitely makes sense. And it seems most people in the chat are agreeing, right? So Zandile says, I borrow people I trust, right? So if I trust you, I'll borrow you money. So Kwazi says something really, really interesting. I don't borrow my mom money. This is the reason, right? Because the stories from my birth to now will come up when I want the money back. Wena nokwazi, I did this for you when you were 2 years old. When you were 3 years old, I bought you this. I never asked for the money back. Tiroletso says, yes, I'll definitely ask for interest. Stiwele says no. A lot of yeses coming up, people saying they'll definitely charge interest. So it's a mixed bag. I always say it's a very tricky one, but I agree with what our panelists said. It's about, do you know the person? Do you trust the person? Are there boundaries? Um, what do they need the money for? Because I'm certainly not borrowing you money for you to go have a good time. So unless it's a real reason. So we're gonna get into ingredient number 5, and it's around a really interesting one, around budgeting specifically, right? So people often think that budgeting is all about restriction. So when you budget, you cancel fun, you cancel having a good time. It's all about just living on instant noodles because you have this budget, right? And I think budgeting is more around having some sort of a balance, right? Obakeng, in your role when you're speaking to some of the people you serve, despite budgeting being so important, why do a lot of people overlook budgeting?
People, the fact that, people, I think last year when we spoke about budgeting, we ascertained that people do budget, but they don't commit to the budget. And I think budgeting can feel restrictive people because people associate it with, limitations as rather than, empowerment, right? Seeing it as a tool that helps you manage your money in a way that, you can control, right? So essentially, budgeting doesn't have to, be about limitations, because when you do a budget, you should align it with, the things that are important to you, right? If you're a person that likes, traveling, if you're a person that likes, going out, clubbing, going to restaurants, then you should align your budget with those things that you enjoy as well. You make provisions for them in your budget. At least you'll know, how much is going to what expense. You know that you're traveling. So if you like traveling, you're gonna put away 1,000 rand for that, and you commit to that, because it's literally, if you don't commit to the budget, then there is no point in actually drawing up the budget, right? So commitment to the budget is very important as well. And a good budget allows you to enjoy your life, while also putting money away for the future. I like playing golf, so I make sure that I put money away for golf, and it's a non-negotiable. like that money will be there. So no matter what's happening and whatever, I make sure that I have money for that, as well as all my other important, expenses and so on and so forth. So you can allow your budget to not feel restrictive, as long as you allow it to, align with the things that you love, then it becomes simple.
I like what you're saying because to me, if I summarize it, it's around saying, a budget gives you that ability to have a balance, and a budget should reflect the things that are important to you. So if golfing is important to you, you're doing all the right things, you're paying this, you're saving, but there's something just for you, which happens to be golfing. I wonder if Carol and Viola have created their budgets on the Black Bullion platform. I'll be honest, when I was a student, I wasn't budgeting. My budgeting was looking at what is in my account, is there money or not? And I know if I'm going out or I'm staying at home. Carol, do you have a budget? Are you budgeting? What's happening with you?
I can relate to what you're saying in the earlier stages of my student life, but we gain discipline along the years. So no, definitely budgeting has allowed me freedom of lately. I've definitely learned a thing or two about budgeting from the Black Billion platform. And yeah, it in terms of like me managing my monthly expenses from like the groceries, and it also links back to the debt. So I do have an account. It allows me to provision for payments as well, to provision for my needs as well as my savings. So I feel like it definitely has allowed me freedom because I don't stress as much. When month end comes, those 5 days before month end, you're like struggling so badly. But I don't feel that anymore ever since I've implemented budgeting, because I just wake up and I'm like, oh, it's month end. Oh, I'm getting an allowance again. Okay, I didn't feel that, that struggle of actually needing the money because I have exhausted my capital.
Yeah, and I
So
think, Carol, it'll give you an opportunity to sort of like better plan your month, like because you know how much you have, you can then better spread the money as well.
definitely, definitely.
Do you have that discipline that Carol has in terms of having a budget and sticking to the budget, or are you like the younger me when it was just free flow? We'll see how things go.
Well, I do budget. I do absolutely believe in budgeting, more especially if you are a person who doesn't have much. It's very important to know that where you spend your money. So I do believe that it is possible, to even enjoy other things like brunches and getaways just within a budget. So, like Obaking has said, I think it's all about prioritizing and planning. I think one needs to allocate like a portion of their budget for leisure activities so they can enjoy them guilt free. However, if affordability does become a concern, learning to say no or finding more friendly,
Mm.
alternative is crucial for long-term financial health, and don't just impulsive spend.
No, I completely agree with you. I think what I'm picking up from you guys is that we need to be intentional with our money. And the only way to be intentional is to have a budget because you know how much is coming in, how much is going out, and what am I actually going to be looking to be prioritizing. And I'm getting that same sense from people such as Truly saying budgeting is very important and it'll help you to be disciplined and to start saving towards goals. So that's definitely coming out as well from some of the people that have joined the webinar. The next one is around men and women, right? It basically says that men are better with money than women. I don't know if this is true or not, right? But it's something that I've heard quite a lot, right? So, and I think it's important we consider these gender stereotypes that have long claimed that men are better with money. But I think recent studies have shown that women are just as capable, if not better, in terms of managing money. But it's one that we need to debunk, right? We have to debunk this. Obakeng, in your job, in terms of the different people that you meet on a daily basis, what is your sense? Is there any truth in this that men are better with money than women? What is the sense that you get?
This myth stems from outdated gender roles. Good financial management is a skill that can be learned regardless of gender. And like you say, there's studies that actually show that women are in fact more likely to be consistent within their budget, and more less likely to take risks financially. And I mean, men take a lot of financial risks, if we're being honest. But also, I mean, financial literacy and habits differ from person to person, right? Depending on your financial background, how you grew up, your relationship with money. And it's not essentially, I mean, does not matter whether you're male or female. I mean, bad financial habits are just that, they're based on yourself as a person and how you use your money. So success with money is more about education, and your confidence in dealing with that money, not gender. And I mean, if we can look at a lot of, most often than not, the financial mistakes that we'll make, or that have we've made, or that we will make in the past, stem from the inability to not have the right information when it comes to finances, right? So that's that it is. If you have good information, good knowledge about financial management, and you're able to apply it, then you'll tend to do well when it comes to finances. I mean, that's just a fact. So it has nothing to do with gender roles. It's a skill. Anyone can learn it if you are willing to learn it.
Yeah, and it seems a lot of people are agreeing with you, Obakeng, in terms of the comments. Um, Nogukanya says ingredient number 6, not in South Africa. LOL. Lisedi says there is no way that better with money. Zandile says it's a mentality thing. It's how you treat money. It's your money personality. Carol Viola, the sense I'm getting is that you guys are quite good with money. I might be wrong, but what are your feelings? Are men better with money? It might just be something you've experienced at a home or something you're seeing on campus. What have been your experiences? Viola, do you want to go first?
No. So simple, I share the similar sentiments as Obaking. In my experience, I have seen both men and women excel and struggle financially. It really depends on their education and motivation rather than just their gender. So in 2023, I had the privilege to be invited to attend the CFO organized event, Women's Conference. And there, oh my goodness, I witnessed that many women are taking significant strides in financial literacy and leadership. Hence, it is essential to challenge these stereotypes and recognize that everyone can learn and excel in financial management regardless of gender.
Yeah, times have definitely changed. Women are taking control. So I agree with you. Carol, what's been your experience?
I think it's a misconception that genders are better. One gender is certainly better than the other. I feel like definitely it boils down to your personality. Here on campus, I observe um, male spenders who overspend and female spenders who overspend. So it definitely does not have a specific gender to it. It's just a case of managing one's money personality and understanding your needs and budgeting. So I feel like it's just a misconception. And I agree with the comment that not here in South Africa. Definitely not here in South Africa.
No, no, no. Definitely agreeing with you. We're gonna move swiftly on to ingredient number 7. That gambling is harmless fun. Now, every weekend, during the afternoon, I'd say Saturday, Sunday, there's always the meltdown of people on social media where they were betting and now Chiefs have scored. And now people are very, very sad. Right? So I'm starting to see a whole lot more people gambling, right? Um, and for some, it might look like a quick shortcut to financial freedom. But sometimes I think it does lead to financial stress and people spending money that they shouldn't be spending or risking money that they shouldn't be risking. But then there might be somebody else that's listening to this conversation saying, "Oh, but it's just harmless fun. It's not really a big thing." But I think sometimes it can spiral. Sometimes it can go wrong. Right. So, from our panel, I'm just curious to know: are there any of us that play lotto? We do sports betting. Obakeng, are you a betting man? Are you a cautious man?
Look, to be honest, I don't like gambling. To be honest, but there was a time, I think a few months back, though there was a sign. So I walked into Pick and Pay, and there was a sign that said, "The lucky winner won 100 million in our store. I was like, what? I was like, what? I mean, it's a kilometer away from where I stay. So when I saw that, I immediately ran to the counter. I'm like, where do I fill it? Like, so gambling, I mean, as much as we say it's harmless fun, it can lead to an addiction. It can lead to big financial loss, and I mean emotional strain. And I've been, exposed to both sides of the coin, where someone won a lot of money and used it for good, and someone who has used their money and lost all their money and got into debt because of that one bet, right? Because now they had to get loans from loan sharks, mashonisa, and so on and so forth. And there's a study that says that gambling releases the same hormones and emotions as taking cocaine. So essentially, then we can see that, is it really good for us? Can so, because it gives that illusion that you're in control. It gives you hope, and most often than not, the odds are almost against you. And I mean, it's not something that we can control. So it's very important that we actually try change, because society is pushing gambling to us so much. I mean, now you can get gambling on your phone, whereas back in the day you needed to go into a casino to gamble. So access to gambling has become easier and more accessible for people, and it's affecting a whole lot of people. So which is a big concern. I think we need to reevaluate that and get into measures that actually where we can have a bit more control than gambling, which is speculation.
Now that definitely makes sense. I can't believe that Obakeng, you were nearly a millionaire. Millionaire. We could have been borrowing money from you, but that's okay. Carol, Lotto, Betway. Do you? What are your thoughts? Do you gamble at all? Is it just harmless fun? What does it look like from your perspective?
Okay. I'm also a victim of the Lotto Stars, your sports bets. So I know that there's a misconception of that it's harmless fun, but then we definitely need to take caution when we're playing such things, because like our gang says, it gets addictive. And when you get that win, you're like, nah, I can definitely maybe win again, or uh secure another 100K or whatever the case may be. But then no, approaching it with caution is definitely the important factor here, because it's not just harmless fun. And especially as someone who experienced this phenomena from home, it can get a little hectic where it puts financial strain in those cases. And when it's like that, it affects your relationships as well. And when it gets like that, it's quite dangerous. So I feel like you don't want it to get there. You have to manage it to a sense where it's not affecting your finances.
That definitely makes sense. It's about trying to be responsible and also knowing the dangers as well. Viola, what is your sense? Do you play Lotto? I think today's Wednesday. It's I don't know if it's Powerball. I don't know which one it is. But what does it look like from your perspective?
Yeah, even on our bank apps, you do have that option. You can just tap in and bet, which is very dangerous. So yes, I've tried the lotto once when I was way, way younger than I am now. It was thrilling, I must say, Tabo. However, losing was a reality check for me. It made me realize there are better ways to spend my money. And I absolutely agree with what the panelists have already touched on. I know someone who is addicted to gambling, and that has led to his financial instability and emotional distress. He can't seem to stop because he has this some sort like some false sense of hope that has become very dangerous for himself. It's truly sad. It's truly sad. Yeah.
It's such a difficult one. It's such a difficult one. Nobody says, I used to be a pilot on Aviator, and let me tell you guys, it's dangerous and addictive. So for those that don't know what Aviator is, it's part of gambling, and it's like a gamified. version of gambling where there's an aeroplane. So that's why nobody says she used to be a pilot. So it's definitely a dangerous one. And I completely agree with what our panel has said. It can get very, very dangerous and, of course, can be addictive. The one that I want to touch on is around black tax. A lot of people see it as a burden. Some see it as an investment in their community, in their family. And I'm keen to see how our panel are navigating it and how do they see it. There's a comment I saw around this specifically saying this is one of the reasons why I'm unable to save, to invest, to budget because there's so much expectation from home. Carol, what is your experience? Is there an expectation at home? What are you willing to share with us?
Okay, my expectation at home is basically that I'm the firstborn child. Definitely, I'm expected to come through, and there's that misconception of that my first paycheck will definitely go home. So I feel like it definitely does. There's blurred lines. There's that me wanting to help home, obviously, and then there's also me wanting to advance myself. So it's finding myself between that the navigation there where it becomes like tricky. So I don't know, with my experience I'm still finding my footing there, um but yeah, we are trying to learn as to how do we handle this burden.
Yeah, I think what you said is super interesting, Carol. It's trying to find that balance where you are helping at home without financially compromising yourself. But it becomes difficult if the person that's asking for the money is a little bit older, because there's also a little bit of a power dynamic. Viola, how are you handling it? How are you managing it? Is it a burden? Is it an investment? How do you see it?
Well, firstly, Tapa, you know, at home they compiled this list for me that when you are done and working, this is what you're supposed to do. Already they have decided for me what I'm supposed to do when I do and when I start work. So for me, black tax reflects, both a responsibility, and encourage success, and also a burden. So I think it is crucial. It is crucial to support loved ones, but it can sometimes become emotionally and financially taxing on individuals, especially if there are no boundaries that are put in place and there are no open discussions about expectations. And in such cases, it can really ruin beautiful family relationships and result in resentment. So I have this friend of mine who recently completed his degree. So he started working and then he called me. He said, Viola, I am unable to go home because all they ever do now is ask for money, ask for money. They told me that you're not having any credits that you're paying. You're supposed to do this. Everyone literally, and then that has started causing like resentment towards them. Now he refuses to go home because he knows that the only thing they will ever do is just keep on asking for more and more and more without stop. It can be a burden, however, it can also be a responsibility if done in the right way.
Yeah, that's super interesting, and I appreciate you and Carol being so open and honest. And there's actually a really interesting message that I wanted to read quickly from Zandile saying, "Black tax in my family is not spoken about, and there's no pressure, but it is up to you whether your conscience will push you to send money home or not." Which I think is really interesting. So there's a lot that people are saying that is very much in line with what Carol and Viola has said. Obakeng, when you are helping a young person that's trying to plan their financial future, what do you say to them when they are trying to navigate black tax?
Look, unfortunately, black tax is a reality. It's there, and we just need to, make provision for it. Because unfortunately, I mean, the broader majority of South Africans, I mean, we grow up in a communal style or in communities that are disadvantaged. So for those who, manage to make it to varsity, for those who manage to get jobs, I mean, then the family, looks to you, to fulfill that responsibility. So managing it and making provisions for it is the only way in which we can ensure that there is provisions within the budget to allow for some help. And like Viola said, setting those boundaries, saying that, guys, I've started working, I can only afford this amount every month, or this is all I can afford, so that they can understand that, okay, Viola gave us 2,000 Rand this month. She can't give us more. And sometimes, I mean, we'd like to believe that they would understand, because you sat down with them, that you told them this is all I can give because I'm not earning that much. And they'll come back and be like, no, but you're lying, give us more. But the fact that you set those boundaries, sometimes, it can create, what can I say? They might, think twice when they have to like communicate with you again to send more money, because you told them this is all I have and I don't have more. So it is a reality. For some of us, you have people looking up to you, that you also want to make sure that, they reach where you are. So it can also be an investment, depending on how you look at it and how you make provisions for it, and assist where you can.
No, that definitely makes sense. And I think a lot of people are agreeing with what you guys have said so far around it, and trying to have those conversations and trying to have, those boundaries as well. In terms of our next ingredient, we pretty much touched on this one quite a lot already, and it's around spending money is all about self care. And I think Obakeng made this very clear that it's all about having a balance, right? So, and if you have a budget that reflects the things that are a priority to you, whether it's golfing or whether it's shoes or whether it's going out, and I think Viola also said it as well, whether it's taking those getaways, it's all about having that balance. So, also in the interest of time, we won't touch too much on this one, but it's all about having a balance when it comes to spending money on thyself. And to wrap it up, I want to touch on a very interesting ingredient, ingredient number 10. It's embarrassing to ask for financial help. I personally feel this. It's very difficult for me to borrow money from people, to tell people I'm going through this financial difficulty. And I think a lot of people tend to experience it as well, because sometimes you see it as a sign of weakness. When I think it can be a step towards empowerment if you're open and honest about it. So, Obakeng, I'll start with you. What are the benefits of somebody coming to a certified financial planner like you to say, I actually need some help? What are the benefits that they can get from coming to people such as you?
Look, I mean, it's like, if I was to ask you, what are the benefits of going to a doctor if you are sick? Right? I mean, the doctor will, assist you or cure you from whatever illness it is that you have. So, I mean, financial advice, when done right, I mean, should provide you with a roadmap, that can assist you in, achieving your financial goals. It should bring clarity, and should be able to, educate you, with regards to, how to do your investment planning, how to do your budgeting, how to do retirement planning, creating value, and in showing you what it means to get from one point to the other in terms of reaching your financial goals. So it assists people making complex financial decisions that they might not even have information on, bringing light to, certain financial concepts that you might not know. How many people tend to sometimes, you take out a car loan not even knowing what a residue is, and now you in bigger debt or bigger financial problems. So it assists you as individuals to ensure that you know that the financial decisions that you're taking, are the right ones for your goals.
That definitely makes sense. To the rest of our panel of Viola and Carol, what's that one thing that stopped you from asking for financial help? So, what's that one thing that stopped you from asking for financial help? Carol, do you want to go first?
Thank you. The one thing that usually stops me from asking for help is the fear of being stigmatized or being laughed at, behind my back after I've gotten that help. So I feel like sometimes you are afraid that if you ask a certain friend, maybe they'll go around gossiping about you that you have this certain agenda
Carol,
money.
are
So
you
I feel
still there?
like usually ask for help from people. And
Uh,
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can hear you. Continue.
Yes. So I think I wrapped up the answer, which is basically the stigmas around that.
Viola, is it pretty much the same for you, being the thing that has stopped you to ask for financial help?
Well, type of thing, I absolutely despise being a burden. And I've always had this silly idea that by seeking financial help, you are just being a burden to someone. And secondly, I felt ashamed to admit my struggles, which really held me back. So it's only in hindsight that I recognize the value of seeking support. Yes. So that is my standing point. Just being shy, admit that I need financial assistance, and also just not want to be a burden to somebody else. That's what held me from seeking.
That definitely makes sense. And I think, the panel has been great in terms of, going through these 10 ingredients and being open and being honest and sharing. And I will touch on a couple of questions. I know we are a little bit over time at the moment. I did mention earlier on that, we do want to give everybody that's joining us free access to Black Bullion so that you can become a money boss. If you are looking to start budgeting or saving and investing, we do want to give you guys free access. So please do scan the QR code that's on the screen. And of course, we will also share this link in the chat. Go click on it. We'll give you free access to this fantastic financial education tool to help you better manage your money. So that's our gift to you. So just one or two quick questions that have come up specifically for our panelists. I know in the interest of time, we can't get through all of them, and we already started touching on some of them. Um, and it's a really interesting one around setting financial boundaries with family and friends. It's something that keeps coming up, and two or three people have asked around that. Obakeng, what's your take around how do you go about having that difficult conversation of setting some boundaries?
I think what's very important is, I mean, for some of us, I mean, or for some people, you don't, like we said when we started, that, sometimes we don't even, we talk about finances, but we don't want to talk about the number, right? So if you don't want to talk about the number, then let people know of, a certain amount that you can assist them with. So, for example, usually when someone is asking you for money, yes, it is important, sometimes it's not, but let them know of how much it is that you can assist them with so that they have that clear understanding that, look, I can't come to Tsepo and ask him for 5,000 rand. He can only help with 1,000 rand always. That's what is there in terms of my provision. Make them understand that, that's it, and anything over that you cannot assist them with. It will create, an understanding from their side, as well as establish those boundaries, to say that I can't ask Tsepo for more than 1,000 rand. That's all he can do, help me with, because you have budgeted for that 1,000 rand, and that's the only money that you'll be able to assist with.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Viola, what would you say has been your key takeaway from today's webinar? I mean, we spoke about these 10 different ingredients, and I think our audience were quite interesting in that they were answering each other and they were giving each other advice and they were sharing their own experiences. But for you, what would you say was the key takeaway, the big thing that you learned today?
So my takeaway today that it is important to have open discussions with your family when it comes to money, right? Like what Obakeng has touched on. It's very important that as much as you are expected to contribute, it's important to give your family a bracket that I cannot go above this. I am unable, because the moment you inconvenience yourself is the moment you're going to break your relationship. So it's very important to have boundaries. It's very important to have open discussions so that they understand where you come from.
I love that. That makes so much sense. And for you, Carol, what's been your key takeaway? Considering all the questions, all the comments, all the ingredients that we've gone through, what for you was the key takeaway?
My key takeaway was basically the investment part. So because as students, we really don't know a lot about investments, and actually that you can start from as little as 1 rand. I feel like I've learned a lot in terms of what Obakeng has said, the options that we have with easy equities, with Black Billion, teaching us how to basically navigate that space. So I feel like that was my key takeaway for today from the session.
Yeah, and lastly from you, Obakeng, what would you say was the key takeaway from you in terms of all these ingredients, all these comments that we got?
We all have the same experiences when it comes to finances, it seems, right? We to some extent all have been through the same experiences, whether it's black tax, whether it's budgeting, whether it's investing, and encouraging these communicate or these talks or these conversations, then you start to understand that we are all one and the same. And sharing these experiences will make you feel comfortable in having these conversations so that we can end up, coming with solutions for ourselves, or looking for that information for ourselves. Because at the end of the day, we all living this life together. We all experiencing this life together. Some differently than others, but our experiences when it comes to finances seem to be so much similar than they are different. So let's start talking about money. Let's be confident and comfortable in having these conversations, because they will help us in the end.
Oh, what a beautiful way to wrap it up. I think our panel was absolutely amazing, honest, open, opinionated, talking a bit about their lives, which we definitely appreciate. I wish we had more time to get into it with them as well. And of course, so many comments, so many questions. But I know that people will want to know what they've won and who has won. So we're going to get into the winner's circle in terms of those that engaged us in the chat. There was so much of it. There was some great questions. Some followed us on social media. So two people have won R100 Mr. D voucher. They're going to have lunch on us. These people being Nokwazi Ndlovu. Big shout out to you. Enjoy that lunch. And Sushi Chawane, who's also won herself that Mr. D voucher. $100 vouchers coming to those two individuals. And then I asked Taryn, who's part of the Black Bullion South Africa team, can we do take a lot as well? And he said, definitely we can. So Taryn basically says, in terms of take a lot winners, Inam Maneli has won herself a R200 take a lot voucher. Absolutely amazing for them. Lisedi Maposi has also won a R200 take a lot voucher. Shout out to you, Lisedi. And then, of course, the big one, right? That financial planning session, right? And it's actually with Obakeng. So you really got a taste of what to expect, of what you're going to get. It's worth 6,000 Rand, right? This one goes to Portia Mukunyama. So, Portia, you asked the right questions, you engaged, and of course, you'll be getting access to those financial planning sessions. A big, massive shout outs to all of the winners, and of course, for everybody else for joining our session. We definitely do appreciate it, and I know it also ran over. So, thank you so much for everybody for joining us this afternoon for our webinar on Money Taboos. A massive shout out to our panel, to our expert guests, to Sanlam Foundation for making all of this possible. Like I mentioned, the webinar will be recorded and will be shared on our YouTube channel and, of course, on social media. Remember to follow us. Happy Wednesday, and of course, catch you at our next webinar. And thank you guys so much.